The Canon R100 system with the 18 to 45mm lens checks a lot of boxes for me. It's small, it's extremely easy to use, it's effective, and it provides me with a platform for an interchangeable lens system. Let me show you how to put it together with our new integrated fiber optic system. Now this is an easy one to put together. Let's start with the lens itself. We're going to use the anti-reflection ring. What this is going to do is going to be adhered to the front face of the lens. If you take a close look at the lens, you can actually see the lettering on the front, and light can bounce into the port off those letters on the inside of the port and then back into the camera. This is going to reduce that effect. So you're only going to do this once. So take your time and make sure you apply it evenly. Get yourself started on one end and then work your way around, circle, until you've covered the letters and the features of the lens that could yield reflections. Wipe away any fingerprints that I might have gotten on the lens. And then simply attach it to the camera itself. Make sure that you have the lens cap removed and it's in the shooting position, which is in the 18 to 45mm range. We can set that aside. Obviously, I've taken the time and made sure I had an SD card. I make sure I have a full battery before I go on to the next stage. And then I'm going to turn my attention to the housing itself. Now it'll receive it, the port will be pre-installed, the gear sleeve will be pre-installed. So really this is just a matter of opening the housing, loading some batteries, and dropping the camera in. To open the housing, we'll have two locking lid snaps, one on each side, and each has their own locking lever to prevent it from accidentally getting lifted. So lift that lever, and then it'll allow you to lift the lever of the locking lid snap. Take those up and over the hooks of the back, which will allow the back to simply come off. On the inside, you're going to notice a couple of things. One is we have our camera mount. This will attach to the camera itself. We're going to take our controls and we're actually going to move this one up and out of the way so that the on-off control doesn't interfere with the camera as we slide it in. And you'll notice that you have a battery compartment. This battery compartment will provide power to the transmitter that you see on the top of the housing. Now, while I'm thinking about it and before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and put two CR2032s in that battery compartment simply by lifting its lid, its clamshell design. I'm going to take my first 2032 battery. I'm going to make sure that the positive side is facing up or towards me. That'll go to the end closest to the wires. And the other battery will go upside down with the negative end facing up towards me. And I can simply close and snap that closed. I'll make sure that my on-off switch for that power supply is pushed towards the wires, providing power to the transmitter. And then I'll snap that back into the cradle, into the ceiling of the housing, and push it fully forward. Now I can set this down and turn my attention to the camera and the camera mount. You'll notice a 1/4-20 screw in the bottom of the camera mount. That's of course going to correspond to the 1/4-20 tripod mount on the bottom of the camera. Align the screw with the mount, use a flat-headed screwdriver, and tighten that down. Make sure it's snug. Any movement between the camera mount and the camera can result in misalignment of controls. And what's nice about this camera mount is it has a 1/4-20 hole in itself, so you could leave this on the camera and use this on a tripod if you wanted to while it's out of the housing. Turning our attention back to the inside of the housing, what you're going to notice is that we have a lead going to the hot shoe. That hot shoe has pins that will correspond to the pins on top of the camera. And we're going to take the time and make sure that our leads are out of the way and they aren't going to interfere with the installation. Our on-off control is up and out of the way. And I'm going to take the camera, I'm going to align the hot shoe, and I'm going to make sure it's pressed fully forward onto the camera. Now I can take the camera itself with the lens attached. I'm going to guide the camera mount into the camera base, into the bottom of the housing. And then as we insert the camera, you will notice the friction fit of the gear sleeve interacting with the lens itself. Slide it fully forward. Make sure you don't have any of your cords in the way. Drop your on-off control back so that it matches the camera. You'll notice that as you engage, you'll be able to turn your camera on and off. Here we have it turned on. Lastly, check to make sure that your sealing surface is clean and free of debris. And we are going to do the same thing on the back itself. You have a compression O-ring here. Just make sure it's clean. Because there's no friction to overcome, we do not need to worry about putting lubricant on this O-ring. Align the back to the front. Lift your two lid snaps over the hooks. and then simultaneously on the left and right, push down till you hear a click, and then take an opportunity to check to make sure that your locking lid snap is locked. Check your control surfaces, shutter, back control, on, off, front variable. Remove the neoprene port cover from the port. Check to make sure that when you zoom the lens, it is moving on the inside, covering your zoom range. And now you can take a photo. And when you take a photo, you should notice you have LED lights lighting up from the transmitter. And that will trigger an external fiber optic strobe. Now that you've fully assembled your housing, all you have to do is create a vacuum. And to do that, push the button on the side of the valve. That will release the cap. Take the barb of the pump, put it in its place, and now you can use the hand pump to create a vacuum inside the housing. All right, I've used the hand pump. I've created a vacuum taking the needle to 15 on the gauge. I like to take an opportunity to look at the needle, make sure it's not gradually dropping. If it was gradually dropping, that would mean that it's losing its vacuum, and I would have to evaluate what's happening. In this case, I am staying steady at 15, and I'm good to go. I'm going to take the pump back out of the equation. I'm going to push the button on the valve, remove the barb, and I'm going to replace it with the cap. Very important, make sure that you always dive with this cap in place. And yes, not only can you, but you should dive with the housing under a vacuum. This provides a mechanical reinforcement of all its closing mechanisms. Now you can go ahead and do this vacuum and let it sit. Be prepared. Set your camera to fall asleep. It can sit there by the door, and that way it's ready for you the next day. Or if you don't have that kind of a time frame, give yourself about 15-20 minutes. And then after it's sat for a while, you can take your pump, reinsert it into the vacuum valve itself, and as soon as you do, you'll notice that the needle jumps right back to where it came from. You might notice a slight differential because of the air volume inside of the tube, but we jumped right back to where we started, meaning that this held a vacuum for that time frame. Now, I'm going to remove this and I'll replace it with the cap. If you need to open the housing, you won't be able to do so while it's under a vacuum. So there's two ways you can do that. You can leave the hand pump attached and use the button on the bottom of the pump to have to press it. That'll release the vacuum. If for some reason you don't have access to the vacuum hand pump, let's say you've left the lens cap on or something like that, you can stick something like a pen or a blunt object down in there, press the button on the inside of the valve, and that will also release the vacuum. But again, make sure you replug the vacuum valve before you get in the water. That's it. That's everything you need to know to put together your R100 system. If you have any questions about it whatsoever, please drop us a comment down below, or feel free to shoot us an email to ikelite@ikelite.com.